Hey guys, so today I'm going to be reviewing Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God, and this review was powered by the Bud Light Limerita. Yeah. Uh, so, to start, Their Eyes Were Watching God. There we go. So this novel opens with the main character, the protagonist, Janie. She ends up as Woods, but she's married several times, so her name changes a little bit. I believe her maiden name is Crawford. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. But anyway, the novel opens with one of these lines, which I think is really good. Okay. So the beginning of this was a woman, and she had come back from burying the dead. Not the dead of the sick and ailing, with friends at the pillow and the feet. She had come back from the sodden and the bloated, the sudden dead, their eyes flung wide open in judgment. And the novel opens with her walking back down the main street of her hometown, kind of hometown, adopted hometown, and having the people sitting on the porches comment on why she's back and the bad luck she must have had with the man that she had left town with, whose name is Tea Cake. So the novel opens with her coming back, and she's in her 40s, so she's an adult, and it was written a while ago, so she was decent age. And her friend Phoebe goes to talk to her and ask her what happens, and then from there, we get all the way back to her original hometown as a little girl living with her grandma growing up in the backyard of a white family who had used her grandma's services for various things. And it makes a point of telling you that Janie didn't even realize that she was black or colored until she started going to school, and the other colored children were giving her a hard time for living in the backyard of white folks. So her grandma moves and takes her, and her grandma wants her to be better off than she was, and so she kind of arranges for her eventually to be married off to this guy who has some land and is nice. And so Janie marries this man. I forget what his name is because he's really not that important. And they're together for a while, and she really doesn't like it. He wants her to work out in the fields, and she doesn't want to. And he initially is kind of nice to her, but he ends up like threatening to hit her and stuff. So she ends up meeting this stranger whose name is Joseph Starks. And he's kind of flashy from Georgia, and he's walking down the street, and he runs into her, and she's still very young and beautiful at this point. I think maybe 17 or so. And he flirts with her, and they get a friendship going, and then he offers to take her down the road and marry her. And he's looking to invest all this money he has in a Negro-only town and wants to be a big voice. And so she goes with him, and they are married, and they go to this new town of Eatonville, where he wants to be a big voice in the world. Alright, I'm really sorry. 1 second. Sorry about that. So she goes with him, they build a store, and he eventually, over time, becomes the mayor and, like, the top citizen of this town, but he kind of forces her to be what he wants her to be and fulfill the role he thinks she needs to fulfill, not letting her really enjoy life or participate or have any interests of her own outside of what he thinks is right. He ends up dying. I forget why, but earlier, so she's still like 40, around 40, but still is remarked upon as being quite beautiful, and he leaves her, obviously, everything. And she has a lot of suitors, and the younger Tea Cake, who has nothing to his name, no money to his name, kind of finds her, and they hit it off. And then she ends up marrying him, and they move to Jacksonville, and then they move down to the Everglades and live on the muck, picking beans and stuff, and he doesn't allow her to spend any of her money because she still has quite a bit of money. And anyway, their relationship goes, and she ends up ending. That ends up ending in a climactic sort of fashion, and then she is left to return to her hometown. And the novel closes as she finishes reciting her story to Phoebe, and her kind of commenting on the nature of it all. Overall, I thought it was a really beautiful story. It takes a little bit to get into because it's written in dialect. Not dialect, how do you say that? I can't think of it at the moment. But it definitely is written in the vernacular and with the kind of sounds that you would expect to hear. So once you get used to reading it, it's fine. And it's quite beautiful and poetic, especially the parts that aren't dialogue, where she can kind of give you a deeper explanation than the language that the characters are using. There's a lot of cultural references. As far as I know, Zora Neale Hurston was also an anthropologist, so she was really interested in maintaining and kind of recording black culture of the time and of the past. So there's some of that in there. There's a lot of good parts about being a woman, and ultimately the story is about one woman, whether she is African American, but you could just claim it's feminist anyway. One woman's journey to gain agency and take control of her own life, regardless of the expectations or thoughts of anybody else. And ultimately, it's really empowering, the relationship she has with Tea Cake. And it's actually really nice to see, even though it's not perfect. It's very far from where she came, and it's nice to see that gradual and ultimate change. So all in all, it was a really nice novel. I'm glad I read it. Zora Neale Hurston's shorter works made me really intrigued to read this, and this was fantastic. I would definitely suggest you read it. It's very good. It is a little dated, but I didn't feel that it was not relevant. I felt it was relevant, and I really liked it. I'm really excited to go check out some more of her works. I know she wrote a couple more novels and a lot. And I think it's important that we still remember these people, because she was forced kind of into obscurity. Until recently, other female African American writers decided to voice how important she was to them, and she's become more important. But I think, it's good to go back and read these things, even just to honor somebody who blazed a trail, or to, put it out there. So, I would definitely suggest reading it. Until I see you again, good reading, and have a good life.